G'day, g'day, g'day. Mathematical KM here. Remember their initials, not a title. Keith Malumbi. Round 2 of the Challenges Round Robin. I'm playing Blake Meyer. He's 1570 rating to my 1435, so about 135 uphill. I've got the black pieces, and it's an unusual in that it's not really a hippo. Didn't really get the chance to play the hippo, so he threw down the challenge of flying the central pawns at me and how well I could handle overextended pawns, perhaps. Let's see. So away we go. So far, so... Oh! Not so far, so normal. We have a pawn on e5. So that's... Is it overextended? If so, can I prove it? Best move is d6, which is our usual next move, and it's covered by 2 pawns and the queen, and played. Now, for him, e times d6 would be the best, but he has played it. So the question is, what do we take with? How do we want the flavour of this game? Now, I figured that developing the queen might be the best move, but I also thought I might like to have 2 central pawns to his 1, and that would be c times, which I played. Now I've got 2 central pawns, he's only got the 1, and he's still flinging the central pawns at me. So now what do we do? Kind of reminded me a little bit of Solomon Riddell, the chess giant. His hippo course is good. And I've got his endgame course, and you'll see by the end of this one I need to get a bit deeper into that course. But for now, this reminds me a little bit of the Mittenberger gambit. With you end up with a pawn here that you're doing your best to pressurise. So we've gone with knight, and we're thinking about getting another knight there. So for now, and he's brought out a knight, so the fight for d5 will go on for some time again. And computer likes the eval, maybe he is overextended. Okay, so that is obviously stopping my knight from coming back around to be another piece on that pawn. But we've asked the bishop, where is it going? And he's backed it up and he's kept it lined up on that knight. So to allow me to move that knight here and perhaps even threaten the bishop as well as the pawn that we want, castling, and it's the second best, and we're at minus 1.6, even though we're equal materials. So far so good. He was a little overextended, and we're activating pieces, putting pressure on the pawn that's a bit lonely. Going okay. He activates a bishop. b5 is very liked by the computer at this point, which would be putting pressure on that bishop, sending it back, and potentially the ability to come forward on the knight and get that defender of the pawn to move away. Looking at b5, I really like that move. Knight to c5 would definitely capture a bishop with that knight. It would be caught, and queen to e8 is an interesting one, but I have actually gone with, we're just getting more pressure on that pawn. I've got 2 knights on it, he's got a knight and a queen. And it wasn't as good as the knight here capturing the bishop, but still minus 0.6, which is to say we've got a better position because the material is equal. Okay, he's brought the bishop back, so we didn't catch the bishop, but now he's got a bishop and a knight and a queen. 3 pieces protecting that pawn. So the best kind of attacker, I'm guessing, would be a pawn. And if he does take my pawn, I can develop a bishop, and then I'm the only player with a central pawn. It is isolated, but it is protected for now. And his best move is, in fact, d times e6. And if I took back, perhaps with a pawn, rather instead of the bishop, I have 2 pawns together, which is always stronger. And it would be activating the rook a little, half open file. But he's instead pinned the knight to the queen, and asking him, is he sure with the h6 is the best move, about -1, and played. Yeah, he was sure. He didn't want that knight there, and he's taken with his bishop. This was a bit of a decision. You can see there's about half a pawn or point of eval in it. Queen takes. You're getting a bit of a battery here. And the queen also lines up there, and you could put in a check. But if things don't change, if I take with the bishop, well, that bishop could potentially destroy his pawn structure, damage the pawn structure over there. And I've gone with that, and that was 0.8 instead of 1.2. He develops another knight, getting ready to castle. And bishop times c3 with a check is second best. a5, sending that pawn forward, is best, but there's not a lot in it. And doing damage to the pawn structure is what I've gone with. So they're not quite isolated because of this one, but this one's that far extended that they may as well be. And the best move for me here is e5, keeping my pawns not doubled, and then thinking about using pieces or getting hold of this d-pawn myself a little bit later. So e5 is best. Queen c7, threatening this hanging pawn, or queen to f6, also threatening this hanging pawn. What did I play? Took the pawn, doubled mine. It's still half a point to black, or 0.6. His best move is castling. He's played it. The pawn is protected by a knight. It is, however, threatened by a queen and a bishop, but if he took it with the bishop, that pawn's already captured a pawn. It'd just be a trade of knight for bishop if I was to take back with the knight. But I've brought my queen in, threatening the hanging pawn, which is lined up on a rook. And a couple of mini lapses in this game. Got to work on that old concentration, because in addition to protecting this pawn, what did Sauron do? Sorry, Blake, you're Sauron. He's made a threat on my h-pawn, which I've just not picked up on. And I've developed a bishop to connect the rooks, and it gives me 2 pieces protecting the pawn. Not a bad move in and of itself, but it does allow white to gain the edge by taking the undefended h6 pawn. Taken. So, and I could see his queens here. I don't think there's any piece I've got that can cover the g5 square. So the knight's coming, followed by the queen. Looks bad. Can I find a defensive resource? Yep, I can. Taking the pawn I was lined up on anyway, but at least I was thinking the defense. I was thinking getting that queen in. So we'll see how that goes. I take. He still brings the knight. I bring the queen. I will just take a quick look, and it is interesting that queen to h8 is significantly better than queen to g7, which is where I put the queen. So that's a little bit interesting. He gets the ladies off, and if we go back, just moving his queen back to h4 but keeping it in the vicinity is dead even. But getting the ladies off gives the edge back to black, 0.7. So I'm lucky he's taken the ladies off. I guess he's only got that knight attacking, and a knight attacking on its own isn't so strong, and there's nothing else nearby. It's like the queen was. Queens and knights are very strong together, but now it's just a knight. So 0.7 to black. He's brought rook over to threaten the d-pawn, which is protected by 2 pieces. I get my c-pawn onto a semi-open file. If that bishop moves or takes or is swapped off, the rook's on the pawn. He gets his rook lined up on the bishop. Rook's to the centre. He's, normal moves. Oh, what did the computer... Second minor brain fade. We're back to minus 1.1. These are the little things that I've got to work on, the powers of concentration. I was thinking he can go check, I can come back, he'll go back, I'll go there, he can go check. Almost repetition at this stage. The guy's higher than me, but you've always got to look at the forks. It's going to be called endgame, this vid, but and this impacts the endgame. Gives me the challenge of effectively using extra pawns and a bishop versus a rook. We'll see how well that goes. But king here threatening the knight, he gets a fork and knight for a rook. And then the challenge is on me to make good use of a bishop. So let's watch that happen. Bit of a blunder. And all of a sudden we are at plus 2.3 to white. So let's see how well we can use. We've got a little bit of a pawn advantage in some senses with what we have here to his 2 isolated pawns, and seeing if we can try and push. And it would be nice if we could unisolate these 2 guys. So, putting the knight there, wouldn't it be nice if one of our 2 D pawns could become a C pawn? That's the thinking. It was 2.2, now it's 1.5, so I'm guessing that wasn't the world's worst idea. Okay, so now he's got 2 pieces attacking the knight. I've thrown the knight across. I've now got 2 pieces attacking that pawn. And if the pawn comes forward 1, I can take it with the rook. If it comes forward 2, I've got 3 pieces on it, and I can probably take with probably not the pawn, because that would leave the D pawn. But I would have a choice of knight or rook, and I'd obviously go with knight. I'd have enough pieces to win that little exchange. So he's protected the C pawn from my attack. Brought the knight back. He's a little worried that if I had got my only rook, singular rook to the back, that he was still in danger of a back spanker. So that's, a sensible move. And I thought I would give myself 2 pawns protecting that knight, really embed that knight. And he didn't like an embedded knight there. And I actually stopped and had a bit of a think here. And I knew this was a major decision. What do you take the bishop with? And why do you take it? Now, I was sure it wasn't going to be the D pawn. because immediately his rook would take my d pawn. That'd be no good. So the choice is between a rook or the b pawn, giving me a couple of pawns that are together and ready to be pushed. But I kind of figured if I take with the rook, threatening this guy, if he takes, then I get to take here. And if he takes my rook with his rook, I then end up with some pawns ready to go. So I took with the rook, which by the way I think was second best, not best. B takes was best. But I've taken with the rook. I'm still plus 2.3 to white, so we'll see how some endgame play, for a little while at least, is cleverly done. Okay, so is that his best move? C3, yep it is. Plus 2.4. I think he would love me, and thank you Solomon for what I have gotten into your endgame course so far, is definitely the idea of not wanting to take that pawn. Oh, I'm protected, but I'd end up with both of these pawns in the A file would be not really very good. So, and rook takes A4 is effectively, they say, the best. But I was thinking I want to try and keep pawns in the middle. And I have thought I will play this here. If he takes, he's not going to. Would have been checkmate a little while ago, but I can certainly win a rook, so he can't take that pawn. If he takes my rook with his rook, I get to undouble these pawns and try and get these two pawns through. That's rook times c4. That's actually his best move, and king f1 is a bit early. And he does play that best move, and I've undoubled. He takes, getting the protection, getting the pawns together. Still 4.4 to white. So I'm not the only one who needs this endgame course, because we'll see how I go. Trying to show that passed pawns plus a bishop will equal that rook. So let's watch for where this turns over. It's plus 4.3 to white. I want to be able to bring these pawns forward. Kind of able to move that one already because the bishop covers the c1. It's white's move. Let's see what he does. The king's coming. King to d6, protecting this pawn is best. d4 is playable, but it's like nearly a whole point worse. Played the best move, getting the king. Okay. So that's a bit of a huge mistake from 4.5. He should be bringing his king, bringing it forward. So if I then check, his king can't be trapped back here. So there's almost an endgame lesson, but not for me, but for Blake. He wants to get that king past my little barrier, because the barrier is not that wide. And getting that king to e3 now would be much, much better. But he's throwing a pawn. d4 is best at this point. Bishop d7 is third best by more than 1.5, and I can see that that's kind of locking his king in a bit more, but I played the bishop to d7, threatening this pawn. I was kind of hoping he'd play that. And in fact, this is where it's 4.7. Getting his king forward is so much better. And king to d2, getting his king across, but in behind. Or g4. They're the best moves, and they're all roughly +4 for white or better. And if I play d4 now, and it's interesting, I wouldn't have thought that. Need to get into this course. d4 right now is -3 to black. But I would have thought d4... Oh, I so see it. It's a clever, tricky, trappy trick. Bishop pins the rook to the king. Nice. Not having noticed the trap. I've protected the pawn. Ready to move this one forward. He's brought his king across, which didn't stop, and I believe, let's go back, white could have played king to e3, which would have prevented the d4 push, and my king can't get to a square to support that. Wow. Why am I seeing so much good stuff from my opponent rather than my own pieces? Anyway, d4 was allowed and it was played. Should have been played a lot earlier. He's brought his rook across. f6 is best. That's a draw. King to c2. Can't move this pawn forward while that pawn would fall. So I brought the king. He should be bringing king to c3 and fighting for all this, but instead he's played a movie over. It's too slow over here. And the best move for me is bishop to a4 check, but I've missed that this one time. I've got the king in to protect that one to allow this pawn to come forward. And bishop c6 check is played. His king hasn't got a lot of places it can move. Thinking about a box. But I can't move that pawn forward because of the rook. f5, and no doubt fighting for here and moving that rook so that I can play that would be best. Bishop to c6 to make the rook move, or, and this as we'll see would have been the best even though it's third best here, dunno, king to d3. It's in the way of the pawns. But, and I've played that third best move, king d3. Rook to e5. He's looking to clear that out and try and get his pawns through. And we are currently at -6.7. The best move by far, see 6.7 and then -0.3. -0.3 is f5. Just trying to save that pawn. And the other basically 0 one is bishop to b5. Which is not really doing a whole lot. But the best move by far is king to c4. getting ready to move the pawn forward, and then from there, that would be mate, if it's allowed to be played. But from minus 6.7, it'll go to plus 5.3 if you let it get a little bit deeper. Terrible move. Doesn't look terrible, but it is terrible because he takes, being a move short, really. That's checkmate for black. One move short. And he's moved back instead of across or up. He's not going after that pawn. He's worked out that a bishop can't threaten him on the dark square here. Putting it there is no good. Can't play the pawn forward. He'll take it with the rook and the king can't take it back. Plus 5.3. I have to try and do what I can with the bishop to hold them back. Cheap trick. Here, take my bishop. Checkmate. He's not going to do that. Kicked and screamed for a little bit. Now he can take it. But, and at this point I shook hands and congratulated Black. But I'll tell you what, I had that minus 6.7 at just a few moves ago. I really need to work on that, my in-game skills. It's not going to quite the comeback. Wasn't really a hippo because of his overextended pawns at the start. And there were those two moments where allowed the knight fork to go down the exchange and also lost the H pawn, not paying attention to the double purpose of his queen forward. So a couple of things to look to improve. 1600 to 1550. Outplayed my opponent in the opening. Outplayed in the middle game. And it was very, very close in the end game. So there you go. This hippo needs to get... Oh, that's doing a Thanos, not a thing. Put a Thanos end game. And of course, the hippo will have the gauntlet because Thanos loses the end game. Anyway, that was round 2 in the Challenges round robin. Talk to you guys next time.